Sorry about that. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Experiencers Network on Aquarian Radio. I'm your host, Janet Carol Lessin, with my co-host, Andrew Aloha, and our guests are Kosta Makreas Hollis Polk. And Kosta is the founder and facilitator of ETLetsTalk.com, the ETLetsTalk Community, and the People's Disclosure Movement. The ETLetsTalk Community contains about 25,000 members in over 100 countries. The People's Disclosure Movement is the world's largest, most widespread interactive communication between humans and star people currently visiting the Earth today. The movement's members are making successful daily, weekly, and monthly contact with these star civilizations. The People's Disclosure Movement is taking back the power to disclose that we, the people, have given to governments. We have instead created a People's Disclosure. We have transformed from being believers into knowers, and we're going to describe what that means on this show. And basically it means that moving forward, the UFO ET cover-up is over, it's done. And I have a website page up for Kosta and Hollis Polk. Let me see what I have written about Hollis here. She's a clairvoyant and a personal coach, and she's been helping people create lives they love for 20 years. To do this, she blends neuralistic and hypnotherapy techniques, decision science, clairvoyance, and the common sense learned in over 30 years of business experience. She's a master practitioner of neurolinguistics, a certified hypnotherapist, and has a bachelor's degree in engineering from Princeton and a Harvard MBA. She's a successful real estate broker and investor, and has owned and run successful businesses, including a restaurant and a wholesale bakery and a wood stove wholesaler. She teaches classes in intuition development and development of body, mind, heart, and soul, and offers one-on-one personal and professional coaching. And she's been communicating with her star brothers and sisters for 13 years, both telepathically and physically, on at least one occasion. So I'm going to get over here and, goodness, can I write down some of this? Okay. This, I believe, is Kosta. And let me click the live button for him. 1 second, there's always a delay. Bear with me. Okay. Oh, are you live?
Hi, Janet. It's Kosta.
Hi, Kosta. Okay. Welcome to the show. So I gave a brief bio, and I want you to tell us about yourself and this incredible work. Before I get, let me just make sure our co-host is here. Okay, I'm doing a sound check with him. Okay, 1 second. Andrew, aloha. Welcome to the show.
I'm still here.
You there? Okay,
aloha.
So we're doing a sound check once the station is live. Okay, so we'll be interviewing Kosta and then Hollis, and then we're going to be doing a roundtable and talking about the issues and asking each other questions to round out the show. Okay, so back to Kosta. Welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and more about this incredible ETLetsTalk Community and People's Disclosure Movement.
Absolutely. I should have said aloha, keeping in mind that the aloha spirit is alive here. I'm Kosta Makreas, and I never expected, as we're talking right now, at my tender age of 66, to be sitting here, and for the last 13 years, teaching people and creating an online community where we contact star civilizations. I'll talk a little bit about my background, where I came from, and you'll realize that I had a very conventional kind of sort of normal life until that changed in 2006, when my interest in ET and communication with star visitors abruptly changed the course of my life to bring me to where we are right now, talking with each other about this. But I do want to let people know that I'm a normal, everyday person like pretty much everyone else. I grew up in the Midwest in the 60s and the 70s, and was enamored of the sky. I was into science fiction. I was interested in the NASA program of the day, the Gemini, the Mercury, the Gemini, the Apollo programs, like so many people, and had my own telescope, was interested in astronomy and all that. So my eyes were always towards the sky, and that's kind of the foundation that I do come from. And I do recall that I might have been 9 or 10 or 11 when I found my first UFO book in a drugstore on one of those revolving little stands where they have paperbacks. And the cover of it had a classic 50s dome-shaped saucer on it, and I was immediately smitten. I flipped through the pages, and there were a lot of black and white photographs. And keeping in mind that those books in the early 60s and before that were produced by the 50s contactee movement of the day, with some of the renowned people who were contactees then, like Adamski and others. I think I picked up one of those books, and this was before photoshopping and everything, so I just looked at picture after picture, and I said, oh my God, these civilizations do exist. They're here visiting Earth. It's not just science fiction. And I read all that I could find about the topic, but you know what? I just kind of dropped it, went back to school, got a degree in computer science and a minor in mathematics from college, Indiana University in Bloomington, and I came out here to the Silicon Valley in the early 80s just to pursue a career as an independent software consultant for a few decades. And in the course of that, got married, had children, divorced, got remarried, and had the kind of conventional life that I'm talking about until 2006 when, as I alluded to before, that all changed for me literally in one afternoon. And that story is something that also involves Hollis. So when I talk about that change in course for me, I also bring her in to tell her part of it.
Well, what happened? What was the date again? 2006 or 16?
6.
2006?
Right. It was, I one afternoon I was just had some free time on my hands, and I was surfing on the internet, and the thought came into my mind, like, I wonder what's going on in the UFO field these days. I haven't really touched any of this since I was a kid. So you can imagine, I started surfing, and it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? It's even worse or better today. There was just so much information out there, you just didn't know where to start. But it kind of rekindled the fire for me, and I discovered a group of people that would go to Mount Shasta here in Northern California, which is about a 4-hour drive from the San Francisco Bay Area where Hollis and I live. And these people were using meditation outdoors to make contact with our star visitors. And again, I was smitten with that idea and thought to myself, I've got to go. Got to take a week off work and go out and try this. It sounds so very cool. Before I left,
was this the group from South America, or was it the Rob Potter group?
No, it was neither of those. It was another independent group that went out, and then what matters is really the experience, not who they were or where they were from, because the experience is really what changed things. Before I went there, I asked Hollis I asked her to come with me and enjoy the experience, and her response was, I don't know, Hollis, do you want?
Yeah, I basically said, hey, have a good time, but I have a business to run. I'm not taking a week off for that. It's not part of my life.
But she was very supportive. She told me, look, it's a huge universe. I know that there is other life out there, and they're probably visiting Earth. But like she just told everyone, she had business to run and didn't see how it affected her everyday life. I would like to answer that question later on as we're talking about why it affects everyone's everyday life. But Hollis was a good example of a really standard response, which is, yeah, I'm a believer, but what's it got to do with me? Got to pay my bills, got to chop wood and carry water, So she said, I support you. Go have fun for a week. And with all that in mind, I went for a week of going out nightly under the stars and making contact. For the first time in my life, I was seeing the zigzagging lights. We were watching them pulse in response to our light beams to them and, communicating interactively. I was seeing the orbs in the trees. I mean, it was just an eye-opening week with a couple of experiences there that changed things. The one that changed it for me was one night about halfway into the week, we had disbanded for the evening. It was around midnight, I think, or maybe 1 a.m., and it was a group of about 40 people, and most of them were getting in their cars and going back to their motels to go to sleep after having a really good night of contact. But a few of us, about 10 of us, still hung around, and we were talking in this clearing, which was not far from Mount Shasta, surrounded by forest. And as I'm sitting there talking to one of my friends, someone tugged on my sleeve and pointed to my right. And I tell you, about, I want to say 6 or 8 feet away from me, I looked, and suddenly in the air there, I saw a sphere of maybe about 6 feet in diameter, materializing slowly out of thin air in front of me. And I'm like rubbing my eyes and looking at the moonlight, looking at the shadows and the leaves there at the edge of the clearing and wondering, is this a trick of my eyes? But other people were reacting to it, and we were all stone sober and very alert. It was a cold night, so you couldn't help but be alert. And we were all watching the same thing. And this sphere did materialize, not to quite where it looked like it was solid, like you could bang on a wall that's solid, but it was definitely there, hovering a few inches above the floor of the forest, and there was no sound, no vibration, no other kind of environmental artifact to it, except it was just there, and to my eyes it was opaque. And I wanted to look into it, but it was opaque to me in kind of a gray color. I thought of walking over there and maybe trying to touch it, and something inside just said, the better part of caution is you don't know what you're dealing with here. What kind of energy this represents. You better just lay back and don't touch. So I stayed away. A few seconds later, someone from the other end of other side of our circle there, as we were all standing there watching it, kind of whispering among ourselves, wondering what to do, someone said, hey, they said this aloud to the group, hey, I just got a telepathic message from the beings inside this round sphere here, and they told me that they are scientists who are visiting the Earth and are here to study human energy systems. And I thought to myself, oh, great, we are somebody's PhD thesis, and they're doing their field research. Well, that's cool. It's a scientific expedition. I totally get that. That's what beings do, So that kind of gave us a little bit of context to wrap our minds around what we were seeing there. The woman next to me, I'll call her Gloria, was standing straight as a board, and this all lasted for about a half an hour. And during that half hour, as we continued to talk and point at this thing, she had her arms out at a 90-degree angle, and that wasn't even moving. And I knew something was going on, but I didn't know what it was, and I didn't want to interrupt her, so I just stayed really close by in case she showed some sign of distress. After about half an hour, she showed us some sign. She started like crumpling and coming to, and I held her by the shoulders and just asked her, what's your name? Where you are? How many fingers? That kind of thing. And it turned out she was okay. And I asked her, well, what happened? You've been immobile for half an hour, and that's a really tough thing to do. And she told me, as a clairvoyant and a really good psychic, she was approached telepathically by one of the beings from inside the sphere. And I don't know the gender of it, so I'll just call it it. Not out of disrespect, but just because I don't know, male or female. But this being asked her telepathically, may I merge with you and study your energy system, study your aura? And to her credit, what presence of mind this woman had. I don't know many people that would do this, but she was saying yes to this being. You can do that, but I have 3 conditions. The first condition is I remain alert and aware of my surroundings. I don't want to go unconscious. And the being said, okay, agreed. And she said, my second condition is that you leave when I tell you to leave my body. And the being agreed. And her third condition was, I don't want you mixing with my sex organs. No probes and stuff like that. And the being agreed to that. So during that half hour while she was standing there, this is what was going on. The experiment was going on, and she was cooperating until, like I said, when she kind of crumpled a little bit and got a little unsteady on her feet. That was the point at which she finally said to the being, it's time to go, I'm done. And the being did leave, and as we watched, the sphere started dissolving before our eyes, dematerializing slowly, and then it was gone. So when you have something like that happen...
What did the sphere look like? Was it a color? Was it translucent? Was it plasma? Like, what does it look like?
I can't say what other people saw, because one thing I've learned from doing group experiences with ET contact, everybody's abilities are different, not just their psychic abilities, but just your vision. Some people see colors better, in the dark better, what have you. What I saw was gray and opaque, could not look through it, and it was just a solid gray color. But it was there. I mean, that thing did not belong in a forest, and materialize and dematerialize the way it did in front of all of us. No mass hysteria here, no mass hallucinations. We had a half hour to study it. And like I said, another person got a telepathic message, which just goes to show each of us has different capabilities, and that's why it's nice to have a group of people, because they each bring a little piece of the jigsaw, and you put it together and you have a more complete picture of what's going on. And that was so true of that experience. So what I had seen there blew my concept of whatever physics that shouldn't have happened, whatever physics I had been taught, and it shouldn't have happened, but it did, and I suddenly realized, hey, we don't know everything about the science we claim we know so much about, because I just experienced this, and I want more of it, and I will talk a little bit more later on that it just inspired me to start forming a community where other people were taught to make the contact themselves. But here's where I tell the story with Hollis. Because of such a dramatic experience and other experiences, I was calling her every morning after we had made contact the night before, and it was a busy week and with a lot going on, so I always had something interesting to tell her that was very fresh and new. And I think later on in the week, maybe the fourth, maybe the fifth morning, as I picked up the phone and said, you'll never believe what kind of night we had last night, she goes, wait a minute, before you get started, I need to tell you something. And I thought to myself, you're at home. It's a normal life. What could be more exciting than what I experienced? I'm joking about that, but I'm kind of was thinking like, wow, okay, this better be a good one. So I go, take it away, Hollis.
So before I start with my experience, let me back up and say, I was not interested in science fiction. So I have no background. I was not interested in astronomy. I was interested in science. I mean, any kid who was brought up during the space program was interested in. I mean, lots of us were. I mean, scratch an engineer of a certain age, and you'll go, oh yeah, the space program, right? So I was a NASA geek. But aside from reading Chariots of the Gods when I was maybe 10 or 12, I had no concept of any ET anything. It never made sense to me that we were alone in the universe, right? How could there only be, it's a vast universe, how could there only be sentient beings on this one little planet? Like, that just never made sense. But I didn't know anything about any other being, so I was not in any way programmed. So, Kosta's up at Mount Shasta. I'm reading in bed, right? It's getting to be bedtime. I'm sitting reading in bed, and time to go to sleep. So I, put in the bookmark, closed up the book, put it on the nightstand, turned out the light, and as I turned back around, to face the foot of the bed so I could, scooch down and go to sleep, there are 4 or maybe 5, because with one behind them, but there are these 4 little beings standing around the foot of the bed looking at me. I should say I have very good night vision. This was not a psychic thing. This was completely with my physical eyes. The four that were standing around the foot of the bed, they were 3.5 to 4 feet tall, and, I could see compared to humans, they had a larger head for like a smaller neck and shoulders. I could only see down to their torso, but clearly head, neck, shoulders, arms, torso, and then I assume they're bipedal, but I don't really know because, the foot of the bed obscured that. They were white. I can't necessarily say translucent, but they weren't particularly solid either. And there were waves of love coming off these beings to me. I mean, I could just feel the love. So while I was not in any way afraid, I was shocked. I mean, I didn't know this could happen. I didn't know there were beings like this. And they're in the bedroom looking at me. And then I hear telepathically in my mind, very sweet voice, "Who are you?" And again, I'm shocked. Like, I can't even answer the question because my mind has gone blank, and my mind doesn't ever go blank. And after a while, which it seemed like forever, but honestly was probably like 10 or 15 seconds, I thought, I should ask them something. What do I ask? Oh, God. And the only thing that came to mind, not the best question, but was, where are you from? So I thought to them, where are you from? And I waited. And what I heard telepathically was this: Arcturus. Now, and then we kind of stared at each other for a while more, because I didn't know what that was, and we kind of stared at each other for a while more, and then they just kind of melted away, like they just faded out. And I was like, okay, that was really weird. But eventually I rolled over and went to sleep. So the next morning I told Kostas that, and I said to him, this Arcturus, is that a place? And he said,
"Oh, yeah." I said, "That's a really well-known super red giant in the constellation, I think it's pronounced Butes, which I know my Latin is way off. Right. But anyway, it's a real star. It's astronomy 101, and yes, you're not making that up, Hollis. That's a legit word. So I was gobsmacked as she told me that story. I didn't expect that. I mean, I was seeing lights in the sky and had seen the spaceship in front of me, basically. So maybe I shouldn't have been gobsmacked, because here she is now having her amazing moment, or few moments there with these Arcturians. So she says to me, after she tells me the story, and I tell her that Arcturus really is a star, she says, now it's personal. I'm coming with you next year. So I have those Arcturians to thank for bringing her from being someone just supporting me intellectually and emotionally into just coming with me on these expeditions and teaching now at our retreats and stuff. So getting more involved along the way. And I always like to thank the Arcturians whenever whenever we tell this story on interviews or in front of audience. I just say thank you wherever you all are, because you did what it took, up close and personal, to get my wife to become more interested in this topic, and again, just gratitude for that. So that's
let me get back up again.
Hang on
a
second. I want to ask a question.
Your turn.
Kosta,
go ahead.
Was that group that you went to Mount Shasta with, was that a Stephen Greer group or somebody else?
It was somebody else, and that doesn't matter right now. I've been going out with a lot of groups over the years, and that's been one of the joys that that I have found is that people are starting their groups everywhere. We're all over the world right now by the thousands. And so there's always ample opportunity for people, to find others who are hopefully nearby them and join in a group and go out and do their contact. Because that's one thing I've realized over the years as I've been running this community is when people contact me and they find ET Let's Talk, one of the first things they say is, I am so glad I found you, because I've been the black sheep in my family, or my partner hasn't understood, or my husband, my wife, my friends, whatever, and I had to kind of shut up and not talk about this topic because, nothing good would come of it. So people are always happy to find this community, and that's why I'm saying there are groups everywhere now. Not nearly as many as I'd like, but a whole lot more than there were before I started 13 years ago. So people can have a group experience and find some company and find some support.
And so how often are you going to do are you going out to do these meditation groups, and how often are the actual meditation groups doing these meditations? Are you going out once a month, once a year to do these meditations or what's the situation?
It's
how
all
can
of
other
all
people
of the
participate in this?
Oh, that's easy. At ETLetsTalk.com, it's a free membership, and they can come up there, put themselves on a map so that others can find them. They can post videos and pictures, and they'll get on my email list so that they get announcements about the contact events that we have. So the short answer to your question is people in this community are doing contact daily. There's so many of us now that on any given day, who knows, somewhere in the world, multiple scores of groups are actively doing this contact. Now, in a formal kind of way, I founded the Global CE5 Initiative in 2010, and I make an announcement to everyone on my website to get together just during a 24-hour period on a Saturday, which is nearest the dark of the new moon. So it's a different Saturday every month when the sky is going to be the darkest, because people know that a fuller moon with all the light will wash out a lot of stars. So for many, many years, 9 years now, I've been making these announcements, and people write in and they tell me where they're going to be joining in, what part of the world, how many people, and I just bring the community together around this experience so that we can make a united approach to our ET friends as a community, as a network.
You must have had a lot of people the other day during the dark moon doing this stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah, whenever there's a dark moon, but you know what? The truth is, if you want to see lights in the sky, the darkness or the lightness of the sky does matter. But the ET contact is also kind of a spiritual thing where you can make your own contact anywhere you are, in your living room, in your office, in your own backyard if you want. That's what the important thing is, that our ET friends, our star friends, who want us to know them as family, will contact us no matter where we are, as long as we have, the right vibration and the right goodwill and open, loving heart to present to them. So what I'm trying to say is the contact can occur anywhere, anytime. But what I was describing was in a formal way, I just get the community together once a month so that we can all get together about the same 24-hour period. But that doesn't stop anybody anywhere in the community from making their contact as often as they want, whenever they want, and the more the merrier.
And how many different species or groups or types of beings have you contacted over the years, do you think?
Boy, I can't speak for what the whole community has experienced there, because I've been told there are many, many scores of civilizations here. So the odds that one of our 25,000 people have contacted multiple of these civilizations, well, those odds are pretty good. I know we've had contact with those from Sirius, from the Pleiades, and obviously, as Hollis just related, from Arcturus. And I believe that the Sirians and the Pleiadians are here in really great numbers, but they're not exclusively so. So there are other species, and I don't have a count. You can go and listen to lectures by Paul Hellyer, the former Defense Minister of Canada, who in a more formal way had access to hidden secret knowledge about how many species there are. And I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it was scores of species that, or star nations, whatever, that he alluded to. So I believe he's a man of integrity and knowledge, and I take him at his word. And yeah, I'll buy that.
And once you do a meditation, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, let's go back and forth. I had a question for Hollis. Did you ever look online to see if there's any Arcturians that are illustrated by other contactees that look like your Arcturians?
No, that never occurred to me. In fact, you're the first person that's ever asked me that question. What I will say, though, is that I had occasion to meet Clifford Stone. I don't know if you know who he is, or if your listeners do.
I love Clifford.
Okay.
I do. Most of them do, yes.
Okay. And I told him my story, and he said, we were each giving talks at a little conference, and he had to miss mine for personal reasons that he had explained to me. And so I ended up telling him my story personally, and we were both done.
You're breaking up a little bit. I'm not sure why. Try saying that again. I'm sorry, we just lost you. Okay, say that again because I just lost you.
I'm not muted. Can
Okay,
you hear me?
No, I don't know. Yeah, it just went wonky a little bit. Try your last sentence again because I didn't hear you. I don't know if everybody else heard you, but I want to hear you. So say it again, your last sentence.
So Clifford went and got a painting that another woman had done of these same beings. And she had seen them in more detail than I had, which was cool. And he said, call these type 2 braves. So,
type 2 braves. Yeah.
Yeah, type 2 braves.
Well, Clifford was part of the team that would go in at the crash sites. Apparently, there were a lot of crash sites military house, and he was part of the medics. The medics. So he had a book, and I forget. I think like 65 species, something like that. And it was a book that the government gave him as the medic for extraterrestrials on how to take care of these different beings. And he did that for a couple of years, and then when they sent him away from that assignment, they dispersed the team. So they were ordered never to talk to each other again. So he felt very sad about that. So that had bothered him. So we had him on once or twice. I'd love to have him on again. Thanks for reminding me about Clifford. So he said those are type 2. I've seen a number of great, and they were how tall again? They were the 3 to 4 feet.
3.5 to 4 feet tall. Yeah.
And did they have the witness driver large eyes and large head, or did they look different?
They definitely had a large head. I honestly couldn't really see features. So I don't know about the eyes, but definitely a large head. They were completely white.
They were the white ones. Okay, cool. And then I'm on your site, and where do I see the map? I want to see the map to see if I'm showing up. I just signed up.
If you're a member, if you're a member, and you should be on the members login page. There'll be a link there that says member map. It's moved around a bit, so but you can click on that, and it should bring the map up, and and you can mouse over any of the locations there, and it'll give you contact information for the person who's at that location. And the map relies on people voluntarily, placing themselves there, because not everybody who joins a community or website like this wants to be public. But for those who do, and they're looking for camaraderie, they'll place themselves on the map and find each other and try to get together. So it serves a really useful purpose.
Yeah, I'm curious how many people are in my area. Go ahead, your turn, Andrew.
Yeah. Once you start the meditation, how long does it take for these beings to show up, or does it vary from group to group, location to location, or so forth?
Yes, it varies. It's all over the map. I have protocols that are on the website, 7 simple steps for using meditation, visualization, your heart, and imagination to make the contact. And yet what I've discovered over the years is that everybody who comes in seems to alter that template, and they add something, they change something, they delete it, so that I don't think there's any two groups using the same kind of approach. So what I try to do is I emphasize to people that at the core of this whole contact, it's really about the love. The beings that we want to contact, the species, are very psychic and likely more spiritually advanced than we are. If we approach them with love and higher vibrations and being coherent in our thought with our group, they'll be able to detect that. So every group seems to do it differently. They have different experiences. Some of them will meditate for an hour. Our group doesn't need more than 20 minutes before we just tune in, for example. But like as you said, everyone is different, and the real common core is to approach this with love and goodwill and invitation to them. And no matter how it is that your approach varies, eventually you'll make the contact. And I do want to point out that the contact can come in a lot of creative ways. We're not always just looking for lights in the sky, because in that way we're limiting these advanced civilizations in the way that they can reach us. For example, they might use a touch on the knee or a touch on the shoulder, a telepathic message, a lucid dream. They might play with electrical phenomena around you, like turning off your smartphone or turning it on and playing some kind of cosmic song that you didn't expect, or messing with your car lights when this is not possible for anything like that to happen. Or if you're out in the deep wilderness where there's no real civilization around, your radar detectors will go off like crazy and play certain patterns. And it goes on and on.
Well, Kosta, I'm blaming you, because that stuff's been going on in my place for the last 2 or 3 days. So I'm blaming you. So there.
Okay. Yeah, it's all my fault.
It's all your fault.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, well, if you want more of
coming on the show with you.
My lights have been flickering. My power went out 2 days in a row. I keep getting these like touches on my arm, and I don't know what else, but some weird stuff's been going on. That's all I gotta say.
Well, congratulate yourself. You're making contact.
Yay.
Right. Well, I didn't know that was my intentions, but I guess so. Why not?
Well, now that you're learning what we do, I would recommend your very next step would be to now deliberately, proactively sit down in meditation wherever you're comfortable. Still your mind and just open your heart and send the message out there to whoever it is that's wanting to contact you to continue the conversation. And I always tell people that to always protect themselves in whatever way is natural for them in their spiritual tradition, because we do live in a kind of a super vibration here on Earth where there are negative dimensional entities and things like that. And we do not dwell on that, but we do acknowledge that it can happen. So we raise ourselves to a high vibration. We bring in protection, like I said, whatever form is natural in our tradition to do that. And then we're off to the races. The beings that you attract will be of like vibration, and like positive vibration, and they'll continue to communicate with you.
And
Kosta, there's a feedback going on from you. I don't know if you have the speakerphone on or not, but go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you don't like a particular kind of contact, you can ask them to please stop that. Right?
Say
if
what?
If you don't like a particular kind of contact, ask them to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, leave my electricity alone, you guys.
I get lots of contacts. I'm an ongoing, lifelong experiencer, and if they're not contacting me, I go, "Where are you guys? What's going on? Come and show me a sign." Now, do they still show up in your room? I still get them in my room, and I don't think I probably am no longer part of the breeding program because I'm 65 years old, right? I'm in your age range, I guess. But I've seen just about every creature, every being, every whatever you want to call them, entity, the interdimensionals, extraterrestrials, discarnate, incarnated, different orbs, and I've seen them all. And it's when I look at my life, I go, well, that's ridiculous that I've seen them all. But so, do you find with your work that you have people that have a lot of contact? Do they have contact, once or twice in their lifetime? What do you find? Because you said you have an enormous amount. Let me get your amount of members. And congratulations, by the way, having
over
25,000. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you've done it. So.
Oh, and I've got some numbers that'll even blow your mind even more. But keep talking. We'll work on that.
Yeah, so I'm wondering so I asked because we don't have any police artists, right? And so what I do is I invite my guests, I go and look online and tell me what species that you've seen. You can just Google, like I showed you in the page I created. I put a sample.
Yeah.
There are
I saw
thousands and millions of pictures out there now. So, I've looked and I go, well, yeah, I've seen that one, and that one looks familiar, and yada, yada, yada. So you personally, both of you, individually, collectively, how many different types of beings have you seen? Or is it all telepathic?
I'm more telepathic. I don't see them so much like other people, like yourself. So you know what, the truth is I don't really place an importance on having to know the origin of the star system, for example. So I don't ask a lot of questions like, where are you from, what's your name, 3 IDs, please, and all that. I mostly listen to the quality of what they're telling me in order for me to gauge, am I talking to a being who's knowledgeable, who's serving the greater whole, or not. I'm using other kinds of ways to look at it rather than trying to put labels. And I'm not saying that labels are not important. I guess they can be. But for myself, who doesn't see that much, I'm looking at the content of the message more. And that's not true of everybody else. For example.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen at least half a dozen, but the other ones are all clairvoyantly, as opposed to with my physical eyes.
And sometimes they'll take me to other planets, and I won't have any idea. They don't say this is X planet, Y planet, Z planet, right? They don't give me a name, but they will give me information and evidence that you're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. and when they show me that, exactly. I go, I'm so excited. It's like, because it's not just telepathic. They'll have like the breeze going across my body. I'm there somehow. Maybe it's a spiritual, etheric body, but I'm still sensing the air and the smells and the winds and the sounds and the telepathic or verbal communication. It's very rare that it's verbal, but sometimes and I got this from my experiencer yesterday. They call my name, and that's an honoring. They'll say, and my spiritual name is Kira, and they'll say Kira. And so, anyway, this is such an incredible field, and I'm so excited that you guys are doing this. I mean, you can't imagine how excited when I read that you have over 100 countries and 25,000 members. And I love MUFON, but you're not MUFON. And it's good to see other groups, get this prominence, because MUFON tries to funnel it into a certain formula. So yours is more free flow, right? What are you experiencing? Do you collect stories, or are you just providing groups?
Oh, yeah.
No,
we collect stories. Someone who's on the website people are welcome to create their own member profiles there and upload pictures, videos, written text of what they've experienced. For example, every month when we hold our what I call the Global CE5 Initiative events that I mentioned, which are 24 hours long, where we all just get together during that period, I ask people afterwards on social media and through the website to tell their stories, because we love hearing each other's stories. No one person has all the knowledge, right? And you always learn something from someone else's experience, or you're inspired by it. It just gives you a bigger picture of this is huge, everybody who's listening. This is the ET in the room no one's talking about. If I can kind of twist a certain metaphor about an elephant in the room that no one's talking about, we have a lot of these species visiting. People are interacting and have been for decades, and more in recent years. And if you know where to go, you can hear some of the stories, but oftentimes people just climb up and they don't talk about it. And that has been changing slowly, where people can come out more and say what they've experienced, and that's good. And that's what we're about as a community. We're supporting each other to speak up. We're kind of out of that cosmic closet as experiencers now, and saying, wait a minute, you can't tell me what I saw or didn't see. You weren't there. So whenever someone tries to put this down, it's like, I know my experience, I know what I saw, and I know other people that know theirs too, and we're getting together and supporting each other, and now we're a bigger community than any of us thought possible, and we're growing every day. Let me throw a statistic out at you. Research was done in 2015 and 16 by a Dutch firm called Localities, and they did the largest study of its kind, where they researched what adults who are global around the planet, from different demographics, from different countries, different belief systems, different economic systems, so they could get not 100% coverage of what humanity is like, but kind of some representative coverage. And if you know what research is about, the people that you sample, that you ask questions of, that you poll, it does matter to know who they are, where they're coming from. So anyway, this firm did a really serious study about global adult attitudes towards extraterrestrials and extraterrestrial life. They asked a lot of questions, and they published their report and came up with lots of numbers, and it's all very interesting. But two questions that they asked really interested me, and that's what I want to relate to all your listeners. One of the questions was, do you believe that star civilizations exist? And out of these 25,000 people, I believe 40% or maybe 60%, it was one of those two numbers, said, yes, we do believe they're not just microbes under a rock somewhere or in a primordial ocean. They're full-on civilizations. That's an astounding percentage, whether it was 40 or 60, I don't remember. But of that group then, the next question they asked was, okay, so you believe the civilizations do exist. Should we be communicating with them? Should we be contacting them? And a certain amount of those, again, it was 40 or 60, so I'm flipping the numbers, but a big chunk said yes. Now, taking those statistics, those percentages, I applied them to the population of adults around the world at the time that the survey was done. And long story short, did some magic with mathematics that I know, and came up with a number, 1.3 billion people, billion adults, 1.3 billion today believe that star civilizations exist, and moreover believe we should be communicating with them. And that is the demographic that ET Let's Talk, our community and other communities, is working with. There's a lot more people that, in theory, support what we're doing than we ever imagined possible. I would have never come up with a number that big, but
wow.
It's out there, and
so you're saying you're saying 1.2 billion, not million, billion.
Billion with a B. People believe that there are civilizations. Now, it doesn't mean that all of them are grabbing their lawn chairs and are sitting in their living rooms and meditating. They're not. Keep in mind that half of those people, maybe more, are wondering where their next meal is coming from. So despite whatever beliefs they might have, they're worried about their survival the next day, the food for the next day, their sick child, whatever. But again, that creates a field, whether or not they're making active contact, and it's only a small minority of them that are, people like us, it still builds a field, because when human beings are open-minded about the possibility of cosmic visitors like this, that allows the rest of us to succeed. And I know that our star friends are thrilled that over the past few decades, human beings have opened up way more and more to the fact of their presence and wanting their presence. And that's not to say everybody's thrilled with that idea, and I don't want to go into that because there will always be naysayers and people that want to bring it down and create fear, and that's not where we're coming from, because the civilizations we've contacted, all benevolent, all loving, they're here to help because we're kind of in a mess down here, and we need some help as well as doing it ourselves to get out of the mess. So they're here out of concern and great love, and that's who we're dealing with in our community. So we're not alone. We're not alone in space, and we're not alone here on Earth. We do have other human beings that support us in far greater numbers than we ever thought possible, and it's growing every day.
So what I'd like to do is go to some of these groups and use some paranormal investigation equipment and operate some of that stuff. Get a radar detector, a box, the voice box. I don't know what it's called, but and see about getting some communications going on with them, so that everybody can hear the same conversation, and not just one or two or a few people, and then work on that level. So I think that would be interesting to do something like that.
Well, there are people doing that. There's a group out of Canada called Skylight Films who have, apparatus with all kinds of detection equipment, mostly cameras, but in all kinds of different wave frequencies. So there's, regular cameras and thermal cameras and night vision cameras and all this stuff. They are all attached to a rigid metal framework, which is aimed in whatever direction they choose, and they take photographs of, film, not just a photograph, but film, in all these different bandwidth ranges of the same thing. And it's some of what they have is really fascinating. I don't know how much of it is online. I would probably just Google Skylight Films. Some of it's there. Rob Freeman, who is the founder of it, describes his equipment. He said originally he called it the weapon of mass detection, and now he's calling it the weapon of mass debunction, because so much stuff turns out not to be real. And there are still some things that are very real that you see in different bandwidths, or maybe like only in the thermal but not in the visual or whatever. He's got a whole bunch of things. Yeah.
See, I don't know what this equipment would detect or not detect, and that would be the question. But I found some very simple user-friendly apps on my phone that you can use, and a lot of people can download those apps and use them on the phone, and then work with, even starting out with that and seeing if there's some kind of pattern or something going on. with that. And I think all the groups in the world can download those apps and utilize that to at least get started and see if they can figure out a system that would allow them to connect with these beings and know they're there without a shadow of a doubt, and the public could see it for themselves as well. Everything that's going on, and here with the voice box thing, you can even hear them. But I don't know how useful or how beneficial or how accurate those any of those systems would be. So.
Well, so you can't go through all that and not either tell me what the apps are or where you have a list of them online.
I'll tell you a couple of them right now. I just downloaded these like literally about a month ago, and one of the popular ones is called Ghost Radar. You can go online and go to the Google Play Store and just Google some of the stuff. Ghost Radar is I think a very useful system that you could use. Ultimate Ghost Detector probably would be a good one. And then they have the other systems for the Spirit Box, and that's VOX, Spirit Box, Spirit Speak Reversed. I'm not sure how good that system is. I haven't played around a lot with that as well. And then there's a Paranormal Live Ghost Box, and then Raptor. So anyhow, you can look those up. Paranormal investigation kits or paranormal investigation equipment. I mean, all kinds of stuff that you can use to find all this stuff. I just went online and Googled, paranormal investigation equipment, and then it listed a lot of the stuff in there in a write-up, a few write-ups, and then started playing around. Now there's one. Now this is funny. They have one called the Ghost Observer, and it's actually a fake app. And you go in there, and it literally shows some kind of an apparition, and it says, "Oh, this guy is 200 years old," blah blah blah, and people get freaked out about it. I go, "Yeah, you want to see a ghost here?" And it's actually kind of fake, but it's funny though to freak these guys out because they think there's and there's probably ghosts everywhere. But anyhow, go ahead.
I'm looking right now on my iPhone, and I went to the apps, and I found Ghost Detector Radar, Spirit Box and Hunting Tools, Ghost Radar, that's Class Entertainment, that might not be real, Ghost Detector, Ghost Tracker, and Spirit Radar.
No, the Ghost Radar Observer, Classic
like
and Legacy are actually real detectors, but go ahead.
Yeah, there's like Ghost Detector Radar, Ghost Hunting Tools, Spirit Board, very scary, Truth and Lie Detector, Ghost Sensor, Real Ghost. Oh my goodness, it goes on and on. I don't know which ones are real, or I guess you can read more about them.
Well, the ones that I mentioned to you are real. The Ghost Radar, they have a Classic and also a Legacy. The Legacy, I think you can purchase for $2 or something like that. And then the Ultimate Ghost Detector probably are pretty authentic. They're pretty real. And then there's other ones. You have to go in and read the description, and some of them will say, yeah, these are fake, but they're fun to play with, blah blah blah. And so, and then the others
there's
will go,
an electromagnetic detector to detect EMFs. Electromagnetic. That might be. Yeah. Well, listeners,
I'll have to check some
go
of them
on your app and give us a review. Send it to us. we'll post it. Because, we need these tools when we go out there. And if they're real, I've been communicating with ghosts all my life. But I have no idea how to train anybody or to even, figure out how to make it like you're doing it more scientific and more structured.
The best thing to do is get some of these apps. Like again, the Ghost Radar Classic and Legacy, they're probably pretty real. And then the Ultimate Ghost Detector are probably the three that I would recommend to start with. And if you want to really do some actual paranormal investigations, and then of course you can go buy the real equipment beyond that later on down the road if you have some extra cash. But that's just a good place to start. And then there's other stuff, but I would be interested in just even with those apps right there, those 3 apps. You could probably pick up some alien activities. I don't, and see, that's just it. I don't know. I think certain frequencies may detect aliens or not. I'm not sure, and I don't know how far these things are capable. The more accurate or the more real equipment, the authentic equipment that costs a couple of $100 or whatever, that probably would detect even a wider expansion of frequencies, and then that would actually give you some real information, but even more real information. I think these other apps would give you real information, but the actual equipment could be detect even more expanded frequencies, and I think that would be the difference. So,
thank you for sharing that.
Have you? Well, yeah. Have you had any?
I wanted to.
Oh, go ahead, Kosta. Go ahead.
I wanted just to make a quick comment on all that. Are you getting an echo from me? I'm not on speaker.
No,
now it's gone.
But okay.
Go ahead.
What I wanted to say was that I want to underscore what you were talking about. Trying to find apps or equipment, because we're an experimental community, and rather than, we don't believe everything we see is ET or everything we hear or whatever. We but we insist that we bring our minds and our discernment when we go and make our contact. And if we have equipment that allows us to be more scientific and to measure things, I think that's great. I encourage people to do that. I want our teams to satisfy themselves so that they can talk knowledgeably about what they've experienced. Sometimes what they experienced. Lost my train of thought there. Anyway, I'm just encouraging people to use equipment like that when they get a chance, and if they can afford it. And you know what the best equipment is? It's your mind and your discernment. When we're out in the field and we see something in the sky, we'll go down a list, and we'll ask ourselves and talk to each other and go, look, that's not a plane. We don't see the nav lights. That's not a satellite, because we have a satellite app, and we look that up on our app, and no, it's not tracking where it says it's not being found by the satellite tracker. It's not a planet. It's not this. It's not that. So we go down a list of possible things that what we could be seeing, and when we get to the bottom of that list, we're kind of in a stage of, well, it's nothing that we know of. And at that point, a lot of times we'll send a thought to that object, or we'll flash a beam, and we use high-power LED beams because lasers are quite illegal and a felony in the U.S. For usage. But we use our high LED beams, and we'll flash, and many times they'll flash back, and that will indicate there's an intelligent being up there, that's acknowledged us and wants to play a little bit, and then it starts zigzagging in a way that man-made objects that we know of cannot do. So what I'm saying is we use our brains, our discernment, our experience to eliminate what these things could not be, and when we think we've got something real, we try to communicate in a way that will let us know that we've been seen and that there really is an intelligence operating there. And I recommend to people to try that kind of scientific approach.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a couple. See, I last year I did. I was with MUFON. I was a formal paranormal investigator with that group, and we did. Me and this other guy investigated a number of activities, and most probably 99%, maybe even 100%. Of the cases we investigated were all just people, I don't know, being quirky or something going on that just wasn't happening, and so there was no actual authentic paranormal activity going on. But the tools that we used, Now, the ghost detectors weren't tools that we actually used, but a couple of the tools that we used were Stellarium. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, and also Google Earth. Stellarium locates all the satellites and any activity in the sky going on, including UFOs. So if there's a UFO out there, you're going to see it there on that app, and you can put it on your computer, and it's also an app. And then there's sound meters. I mean, there's all kinds of tools out there. There's one called My Radar, which uses thermal energy type of detections. And then now the other thing you could use is air quality index, which and it's very disturbing because I've had this for about a month, and just pretty much every day it detects the air quality. And here in Flagstaff, I first thought it was in my apartment. Yet I put it on, and it says hazardous. The air quality in here is hazardous. So I'd walk around Flagstaff, and a lot of the different places, especially in the west side of town, it would be hazardous air quality all over the west part of Flagstaff. So I know it's not just my apartment. And then I go downtown, and also the air quality would be good. And then I'd come back, and then it would be good again, and then the next day it would be hazardous. But anyhow, there's all kinds of tools, free, and these are all free. Most every one of them is free. The Stellarium, I think, costs $4. The Ghost Radar detector, the Legacy, the Classic is free. The other one is like $2. So it's not really a high-end equipment that you would bleed your pockets, but the others are just simple tools you can use to detect them, and then you don't have to second guess whether there's a UFO out there or alien or whatever. So you can, and people that don't have or that are not in tune with clairaudiency or clairvoyancy or whatever, they don't have to worry about whether they're psychic or not. They can just use these tools, and that'll help them tune in. If that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing for people who, like you said, haven't developed psychically and don't want to. I encourage them to explore what you've been talking about. Why not? Like I said, we're an experimental community. Nobody has all the right answers. I certainly don't. But we use whatever tools we have, and we share it with each other, and I think that's how we build a knowledge base and get a bigger picture that no one person alone could get. So that's how we're growing as a community. It's an exciting time to be alive, to do this kind of experimentation and to have all these tools, and then the ability to communicate with someone on the other side of the world when you've seen something like in an instant. How exciting is all this? That's how exciting it is.
And the other thing that's coming down the pike is, in fact, just this week, my neighbor has 5G networking going on. So they're upgrading the capabilities of the internet, which means that they'll be able to do even more with the internet than they have been doing. And eventually it'll be 6G. And of what I understand from some of these time travelers is that it'll go to 6G, and then literally they'll be plugging in our mind, just like in the Matrix, into the internet, and we'll just be able to download all the information into our brain, and we don't even have to go to school. We're already educated right there on the spot, and we can detect different aliens, different UFOs, all kinds of stuff that's going to be happening. So it's going to be very, really interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you there?
Yeah, I am here. I was just listening. That's all.
I have a question. Sorry, I have a question. My mute button was on. Have either of you have any reportings of any groups that are experiencing mass? I don't want to call them abductions, but when they make contact, or any of these people being invited on board ships, just like the Dansky in the previous generation in the 40s and 50s? Do we see with this new CE5 movement that people are getting invited onto craft
The answer is yes. And again, I don't have a grand sweep of everything that's going on. It's probably literally impossible for any one person to have that. I will say, though, that members in my community have reported that they have gone aboard craft and been excited by it and described, what happened. And sometimes it's in the astral realms and sometimes it's physical. It's not that common, but people have.
So long before I was interested in this, I had a very interesting experience. It was actually the first time Kosta and I went to Mount Shasta, and we were just going like tourists for a 3-day weekend. Like, where can we go that's different, that's not too far, for a long weekend just to get away from, regular life. And I don't know, we picked Mount Shasta. And while we were there, we were walking down the main street of town, and we saw the opening of a psychic school. And I thought, I'll just go in and say hi and, meet people and introduce myself. And I don't even know why. But we ended up having a really long conversation with the proprietress and a couple of her teachers. And we're having such a good time that when they closed up shop, they said, oh, we're going out to dinner at the Chinese restaurant that was more or less across the street. Come with us. So we went, and we were sitting, in this restaurant, and the guy to my left talks about how he's been on board craft. And, again, this is me going, yeah, well, I mean, again, not the sci-fi person. Like, of course it's possible, but I didn't really, I really wasn't into it. And he goes, here, I'll show you. And he held my wrist. And, I mean, my physical body was at that table. I know it was. But what I saw in my mind was definitely a craft. I didn't see any beings in there. I was in a hallway. And here's how I know that I wasn't making it up. He was there with me, and I don't know, somehow we agreed telepathically to go into, he's like, let me show you a room. Okay. And a door opened up in a wall. It didn't slide. There was no hinge. It just like melted away according to our thoughts. And we walked into the room, and you could see out into the stars.
Right.
Now,
I've
that's
heard
the
that.
closest I've come, but...
Well, Hollis, I want to mention, you might want to speak to the experience that we had at the Washington site, where on 2 occasions we actually had craft that landed. I don't know if they landed on the ground or they materialized, but they were in close proximity to our group that was making contact that night, just maybe a couple hundred feet away on both occasions. And Hollis can speak better to this because she was able to detect the craft and the beings that were there among us a lot better than I was. They were not in the visible spectrum, but within the group that we had, various people who were energetically sensitive and psychically sensitive, and they each contributed their part of the story of what was there around us. And I'll let Hollis speak to that right now.
Well, the first time it happened, a bunch of us could actually feel the walls. And we could feel, you know how you can feel energy with your hands? Like almost everybody can do that when they, do a little effort and pay attention. But there were a bunch of us there who were used to feeling energy. And we could all feel the walls. We could agree where they were. At one point, we went through a wall. We appeared to be in a corridor because we could feel the walls on either side of us. So, it wasn't just me. There were a bunch of us going, wow, there are walls here. And then the second time, a completely other night, probably like a year later, and, I don't know exactly, it's not like a year to the month, but, more or less a year later, like the following summer, we were all sitting in our circle, and one of our members kind of wandered off. He, got up and wandered off. And then I hear him go, hey, Hollis, come here. I want you to check this out. So I wander off to join him. And I'm standing out there, and I can see like a mist, but it's at some distance from where this guy and I were standing, but it had a definite shape, and one of the edges of it was between us and the group, who was maybe another 6 people. And a very weird thing happened, which was that as he and I were standing there, we realized that we could no longer hear the group who had been talking. And I mean, this wasn't a group to remain silent, and it was not a windy night. I mean, it was completely breeze free. So it's not like there was anything to obscure the sound of voices. There wasn't. But all of a sudden, we couldn't hear anybody anymore. And after a while, one of the women who was actually my best friend and the guy's girlfriend came out to join us because she said she could no longer feel us. And she's a feeler. I'm not a feeler. I mean, I can feel stuff with my hands, but I'm not a very good clairsentient, and she is. And she said, I couldn't feel you two anymore. I had to come see where you were. And she could then see the edges of whatever we were in. I want to call it a craft, but I don't know that for sure. But she could see that with me. So two experiences of things being here on the physical earth.
Wow, interesting. Andrew.
Yeah.
Your turn.
My turn. I'm all out of breath. Your turn.
Okay. I didn't want to take your breath away. Okay, so let me go back to. I know you have a lot of things listed on your page. Let me go back to that. There's a lot to talk about.
So what? Actually, I do have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Kosta, how many people, how many beings do you, aliens, do you think are in your group, if at all? And have you actually met any of these live and in person in the physical?
When you say ET's in my group, you mean in the community, the larger ETLetsTalk
Yes.
community? I have no way
the
of
25,000
I would love
people.
to know. I have no idea. There are a lot of people who write to me and say, "Hey, Kosta, I'm a starseed," and that's a label that's well known in our community. And you know what it means is that person is telling me they have, well, it's a variety of things, but they have actual memories of a life before Earth, and here they are in an Earth body. So they're starseeds. They're really not from here, but they've taken an Earth body in this incarnation for some reason. Many of them actually wind up saying that they're volunteers to come here and help things out. Others don't seem to know their purpose. Some don't know their purpose. Some are distressed at being in human bodies and going, they're freaking crazy down here. What am I doing? You know, I want to go home.
Right.
So
yeah,
I hear.
I think that's sometimes.
So, how many starseeds are there in our community? Might be the best way to phrase that. And I don't know. I've never taken a poll. There's so many questions that I have, and I love numbers and to measure things.
That would be a good idea.
I'm
to take a poll.
Yeah, it's a good poll just to ask. Yes, people just say, how many of you think, believe, or know you're a starseed? Just for an example, just to see what number comes up. So that is a good question. I'd never thought about that because I guess I take it for granted. I hear a lot of different things every day from people. This one's a starseed. This one's been aboard. This one was flying a craft at night. I mean, it's my science fiction life, except I think there's a lot of science in it. That there's a lot of truth in what I'm hearing from people, and there's never really a dull moment. So, I couldn't answer your question, Andrew.
Yeah, let me add to that. I've been interviewing now for since 2012, and I've been being interviewed since before that, and I've talked to thousands. I've been going to these UFO conferences for 25 years now, and then I talked to a lot of the other researchers, and and radio show hosts. And what we're realizing, and therapists, I work with a lot of therapists. I do hypnotherapy, I do regression therapy, my husband does as well, is that we are multidimensional beings, simultaneously having many experiences on many planes and vibratory frequencies and dimensions, and that, the illusion that we're in a straight linear time is an illusion, just that. We're simultaneously just in many places. And so we can have a life here on the Earth plane, and we could be an extraterrestrial, we can be an aquatic being, we can be an air being, a space being, an orb being, we can be many, many places. Now, when we're here in this human avatar, a lot of people are waking up to the reality that they are simultaneously existing, and so there's a confusion on how to explain it. Like, am I a hybrid? But genetically, we are all hybrids. We're getting into the DNA research, and what we're finding is that they don't, when they make a hybrid, it doesn't have like a mother and father. They can mix DNA from all different kinds of species. You can have many parents involved in the creation of a physical avatar form that a soul will come and inhabit. They have souls that have origins from many different places, souls that have lives in many different places, and our bodies are the grand end of a trillion-year genetic experiment that has been, we have the latest influx, which is probably the Anunnaki and the Greys. We have reptilian brainstem, we have reptilian DNA, we have all the different species for this grand experiment, and so a lot of times people are accessing parts of their DNA, and they go, that's who I am. But that could shift tomorrow, and you can access another part of your DNA, and you go, well, I'm reptilian, one day I'm mantis, one day I'm human. So that's part of the confusion, and that's not just my research. That's what seems to be, I'm summarizing what's coming in from all over. So it's very complex, very complex.
Well, and I'm fascinated by you saying that, Janet, because as you noted, through your long experience and knowing thousands of people, you've amassed this great treasure trove of knowledge like this, and that's what we all need to know. Is if all of us many of us could get together in a room and share all this simultaneously, we would instantly probably know a whole lot more about who we are, how we're operating, how multidimensional we are. Because I agree with you, we're multidimensional beings having human experiences. Hollis wanted to say something here.
Yeah, I just want to second what you're saying, Janet.
Wait, let Hollis speak. Wait, Andy, let Hollis speak, and then your turn. So go ahead. Go ahead, Hollis.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I've done hypnosis on quite a number of people who have had issues show up in this lifetime that could only be fixed by accessing a different lifetime.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll just do one quick one, which was a woman who had a terrible fear of heights, and she, when regressed, she found she had fallen off a cliff, and we healed that, and the next day she got up on her roof and cleaned out the gutters. So that's clearly a real thing. And although I have yet to have anybody present with an issue from a lifetime on a different planet, I would not be at all surprised to have that happen.
Yeah, we've seen that in our therapy practice. Okay, go ahead. Just remind me of the
I think that starseed and I think that starseed and indigo people are the same. And I've been told that I'm a volunteer, but I've never had any except one dream. I dreamt that I was in a ship one time, but all my other experiences have been from past and future lives have been here on Earth. Nothing from any other planet that I know of or can think about. So that's been my experience.
We've had people come in to do counseling on, they might have a smoking addiction or they might have relationship problems. And next thing that you know, they're recounting something about being on a different planet. And they had no mindset around that whatsoever. And, people that are of a faith and they don't believe in reincarnation, and then they're suddenly reliving past lives. So we don't direct our clients. We track them, and it shocks them when they have this stuff come out. And I just kind of giggle. The previous, I guess they're all simultaneous if time is an illusion, right? So the simultaneous incarnations we have, be they on Earth or other planets, often affects the current. It seems like everything's connected in a universal grid, and it's that butterfly effect. So whatever we do affects the entire continuum. So that's why we can empower ourselves, and if we find ourselves going into negativity or bad thoughts or doing bad deeds, we can correct our course, and that feeds into, it's not just the morphogenic field, it's the grid. Caroline Corey has a series of movies about that. It's just brilliant. It explains how there's this grid that is around the whole universe. That's why these beings can just go popping. They're going through these portals. They're like the singularities. So they don't have to go across vast distances. They can blink and be here and then be there. Because it's all connected in a big universal, probably inter-universe, between many universes, grids. So that's what we're finding. It's just mind-boggling. It's hard to wrap your head around it. So when we find ourselves in a box, just jump out of it. It's not, you're going to find out tomorrow that that's got nothing to do with how it really is. Yeah.
I'm sure you're right. I mean, that's kind of what quantum physics tells us. Right, but
yeah. I'm just like, I've been having so many out of the box, non-ordinary experiences, and I think that was my mission. I think everybody has a mission, right? So I'm here to get over this construct that we're in this limited perspective. And I'm not quite there. I think if I really get there, I can blink my eyes and literally change everything. I'm not supposed to be there, right, where I'm like genie in a bottle and just can change it. But we are able to shift this. If we don't like it, like you said, if you don't like it, you can tell them what to do, but it's actually you're telling yourself, because we're all connected, and that's an aspect of yourself. And you're very powerful. Your thoughts are deeds. And you can say, I forbid you to take me. I was just counseling a young man this morning that was a super soldier, and he was just recounting, one after another, all these horrendous, horrible things that happened to him. And so what I've noticed is we just let them download and express experience, and then they can come to the point of empowerment. They stop having the experiences that are negative because in some way they may have had some kind of victim type thing, but the more you dwell on that, the more victim type stuff that happens to you. So once you get empowered and centered and conscious and aware, and like you said, don't tell them to knock it off, right? They do knock it off. It really stops happening, and I've seen that over and over and over. I can't say 100% because I'm not the therapist doing every case in the world, but the ones I've worked with, I've seen move past it, and the poltergeist or the MyLabs or whatever it is, because there's a level of consent. I think that ultimately with free will, and this pisses people off. You mean I'm consenting to these abductions? And I was like, well, there appears to be from what's coming back, so let's just try that for a while and say no. Say no, I forbid you to take me. And it's shocking. And a lot of people evoke Jesus because they believe in Jesus. They go, in the name of Jesus, I forbid you. And it works. It's what you believe, and it does work. Okay, I'm talking enough. Somebody else, take the talking stick.
So, Kosta, what now? What happens now, and in the future of this community, this group? Where do you want to happen?
Well, that's a good question. And I have some exciting news to share as part of answering that question, and that is that because of the years-long commitment our groups have had to making regular and coordinated massive contact with our star friends from many civilizations, and asking for their help and asking for more interaction, I'm told by those star friends that I do communicate with through various means, and I won't get into those right now, but we do have a channel of communication where I can ask questions and receive answers. And one of the things that they've told me just recently is that because of our years-long activity in engaging them and in growing this community and other communities that have sprung off from it, the star people, are now doing away with the non-interference policy, also known as the Prime Directive. They've been observing it all along because, and if you're someone who knows anything about Star Trek or a fan, you've always known about the Prime Directive, where you do not interfere with a planetary species in their development. However, what's changed right now is that our star friends are telling us that they will be intervening more, and only because we've been asking. They will only intervene. They said we are now free to request them to intervene more. It doesn't mean they're just going to come in and take over. That's not it at all. They're just saying that now when we ask them to come and help us in areas that we couldn't ask before, now they're able to do that. So they're not bound anymore. And this is what's exciting. So when you ask me what's next, that's what's next. Suddenly, and I've put on some videos on YouTube just briefly talking about this and telling people the news, like, we're more in control now. We can get together in our groups, and we've been seeing the lights in the skies. We've been having cool things happening around us that show us that we're communicating. We've been asking them to communicate more. Well, now, folks, the really cool thing is that we can start requesting that they intervene more deeply into helping us. There are problems that we as humans cannot solve. The ecological crisis we're in may be so big that, not that we shouldn't try. I'm not saying that, but our star friends have told us, and I've actually seen video of them cleaning up chemtrails, just dissolving them with little crafts zipping about. We're told that they've been active around Fukushima, that it's still going on, but it could have been 100 times worse than what we're experiencing now, were it not for the activity of our star friends. And I've seen video of them around the mountain there. And it goes on and on. So we are now able, and that's what my message is to people, when we make our contact, to start requesting, like, can we have help with the climate crisis? Can we have help with finding a way to end endless war here, or to neutralize the powers that have enslaved us, economically and otherwise? And the list goes on. Every person you talk to is going to have kind of a different wish list. And I'm not saying I'm wise enough to know that ETs are going to be like Santa Claus and grant every wish and make it so just with a flip of a switch. I really don't know how that's going to happen. All I know is that they've asked that we ask them at least to make the effort and that we partner with them. And that's what's new, is now we have co-creative partners to build the new age. It's like you had a problem, if you think about it in your daily life that you just couldn't solve, or that you saw a direction that your life was going in, or your home that looked like it was pretty catastrophic and it's going to end really badly. But suddenly a long-lost cousin shows up and says, I've been watching and didn't want to interfere because you're growing and you're learning, and I don't want to do your growing for you. But you know what? I'm here now, and I'm able to lend you more of a hand. What is it you would like me to do? How can I assist you? That's the way I look at this right now. It's our cosmic family coming back and saying, we are now able to help you more, so talk to us. Make some requests. Let's build a golden age together. And again, I don't know how all that's going to happen in detail, but at least we can ask and get the conversation going with them and synergize our efforts. And we have more of a chance to succeed. I don't know if you've heard the saying, but the best way to predict the future is to create it. So we're at the point in our community now that we have the ability to ask for their intervention. That is huge. And I'll be talking more and more about that as time goes on. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Hollis, about.
Yes, I want to add that. I had an interaction that really brought that point home. I was in my bed sleeping, and I found myself in a meeting with 100,000 unique beings. There were no two beings alike. So there was one representative of each species, and there were 100,000 in this facility. And the facility we created with our minds for the purpose of our meeting, they told me that once we're gone, this facility, because, as a human, I say, where are we? Well, that's a stupid question. We are where we are. We're just here. And we created a here and a now for us to be so we could have this meeting. So I was addressing, they were asking me, what is it like to be a 21st century human female alive on the planet Earth and, in the United States of America on the island of Maui, and, what was it like? And so I was reporting, what it was like being human. And so I was down on the bottom level, and I was facing a dais with three, and these were the only three beings that were like two females and one male. And the best way they could describe them is they were kind of like giant boar beings, like pigs, boars. And I was just struck by them. But there's a beauty in every being, no matter what they look like. And so I'm looking at them, and whenever someone from the audience, now the arena went up 360 around me, and as far as I could see, there were just 100,000 people, as far as you could see. But whenever somebody wanted to ask a question, they would appear before me, like an avatar of them, projection would be in front of me, so we'd be eye to eye. Even if they were taller, we would be the same size so we could look into each other's eyes. It's very important for us to look at each other in the eyes, because the eyes are the windows of the soul. But simultaneously, where they were actually sitting, their form was sitting, would be highlighted so you could see them. And then everybody could understand. It was like the universal translator. It wasn't a device. It just was, in the air. And so I said, I was crying by the time it was over, and I said, please intervene. Please stop the non-interference clause. Please. I love the earth. I love this species. We are worthy, we're going to, there's a stupid part we're being interfered with. We're not sure exactly what's going on, there's this faction, I call it the Illuminati, whatever, the powers that be, and we have not been protected. We have been interfered with. So the non-interference clause wasn't working with whoever has been, directing this planet for thousands of years. And so they agreed. Now, I'm not saying that I'm the one who did it. I think that there were many of us communicating. That was about 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago. Time flies. And so I correlate. I can concur. That information you're getting, that's happened. They now can and are and will help us. But you have to ask. That's the key thing. Hollis,
exactly.
We haven't heard from you for a while. What would you like to say, Hollis?
I just would like to back up the place you were in, because I've been in a place like that. It was not quite as big as what you're saying, but I knew there were many thousands of people there. I mean, and it was a sphere. It was very interesting. And I was just part of the audience, right? But there were, it was concentric rings rising up, like the bottom half of a sphere, and then there was a dome too, but there weren't beings up there. And yes, whatever was going on in my scenario was down in the very center, like kind of like a boxing arena or something. Not that it was that. There was no adversarial sense at all. My experience of it was more kind of holy, like, oh, we're all one. Look at all of us in our beauty. We're all different, but we're all one. And I mean, that was it. I wasn't there very long. But I was shocked because I didn't know a place like that could exist. So that's all. And just kind of 2 cents to back up your wonderful story.
Thank you.
So
now, I think they take a lot of us
publicly
over time. Go ahead.
Let me say this because I think it's probably already been done by who knows how many people, and I think I've done it myself, but I don't know that it's been publicly done in the way that I'm going to do this right now. But to all beings, to all beings, angels, guides, spirits, masters, saints, concerned, we give you permission and we ask and request that you come forward and come forth and assist us, guide us, and support us here on planet Earth any way you can or able to and willing to do so. And thank you very much, and may you be blessed with special blessing upon doing so. Now, my next question is, are you going to participate in the September 20th Area 51 storm event or not?
The answer, the short answer is yes.
I think you should, but that's besides the point.
Well,
go ahead.
Let me tell you how. No, I'm not interested in being there physically and storming a gate and going inside to free them aliens. Now, what my ET contacts, my star friends, have told me about that event is that it's on very many levels. It started out as a joke, per the story of the guy who I forget his name, but it started out as a joke and then caught fire. Right, because the consciousness and the interest is there, and he just kind of all the wood was there, and he just kind of lit a little bit of tinder there, and the whole thing just
right.
has gone up, and it's a huge flaming fire of people wanting to know. My star friend said that this event is the equivalent, and I'm old enough to remember this, of what we experienced as Woodstock. Because
exactly.
Woodstock in the U.S. was a massive collection of consciousness that was raised and aware, and it rippled out and spilled out over the geography, over the years, the decades, in many different ways. The counterculture affected the rest of the planet, and it was a massive, wonderful thing. And it wasn't just a concert with mud and drugs and all that. That was one level of it, but it was a consciousness event where the consciousness of love came together. This September 20 event, I'm being told, is of that nature. There are more than 3 million people, I think 3.3 or 3.4 the last time I looked on Facebook, where the event is listed. Now, assuming that someone hasn't gamed those numbers and created a robot to hit likes and going and interested, that's a lot of people who suddenly have their consciousness around this. And yes, some of them might show up to party there and do drugs and listen to music. Some, I think, foolishly may think they're going to storm the gates, and they don't know what they're going to get into, and they really shouldn't do that, and that's not the point.
Right.
The point is, this is a consciousness event, and what we're going to do, and I'm announcing this here first, and I'll be publicizing this to my community, is we're going to be calling for my community and others that they're part of, these are networks within networks, to join in meditation on that day, on September 20th, and ask very directly for our star friends who are also going to be present there. Instead of us telling them we're showing up to free you, they don't need to be freed. They have told us
right.
They would like us to ask them to free us, to help free us on Earth. And this is part of that non-interference thing where now we're allowed to ask for help. They're using this particular event as an opportunity while everyone's kind of paying attention to it to come together, and I will be calling people to come together during that day and communicating with the Star Friends and asking for their help to free us, to liberate the Earth, Gaia, all her life forms, and get us started with our golden age. And that is the request from the Star Friends, that we do that. So I'm going to be doing my part. It won't stop other people from doing theirs, but that's my answer to you is, taking advantage of this, because this is a moment.
People are there,
the moment we're going to have.
If people are physically there, then I'm assuming that groups all over the world would collaborate with this, and then if people are physically there, they could join in as well at a certain time frame or whatever. So 222, that's what I'm picking up, but that's besides the point.
Thank you for asking that.
I said I'm interested. I went to the group and said I'm interested. I'm not going, but just showing interest. 3.4 million.
Too many people
There's
for
2
me.
million, 2 million going, and 1.4 are showing interest. But I will be supporting everybody spiritually. I'm not going to go.
Yeah, this is a spiritual effect.
2 million people.
It's really a spiritual event. If you look at it from the right framework, it's anytime our consciousness can come together to try to think of the whole and what's better, the best way to serve the whole, then it's a good thing. And this particular event, though it started out as that joke, has that potential, that capacity to be something bigger than anybody thought imaginable. And what I'm told as well after the fact is that by the end of this year, this particular event and maybe some others will cause a greater mass awakening, a great awakening among the population of the earth, so that this topic will be on a scale that we've never seen before.
Right.
I'm not wise enough to know how that will happen, if it will happen, but I'm always open-minded, and I know the power of consciousness. If we can get enough people to get the ball rolling with this September 20 event in consciousness and open this up and wait for greater and better things and for our star friends to show up and for us to open up our psychic powers, I don't know really what to expect totally, but it's going to be a positive, good thing. And so let's start the ball rolling and see what the rest of the year brings in terms of our awakening on the planet. Because you know what? We have to awaken in bigger numbers than we have before. That this is 1 minute till midnight on that clock of extinction, and all hands on deck. All people who, even in a little bit, have a little bit of that light with them, and who care a little bit more about the planet than about themselves, they're already on their way, and we need everybody, no matter how awakened they are, to join together to save our world, to make a positive transformation, and I believe to start a golden age. And that's what our star friends are asking us about. Is they said, they've told us, we're here, we're clear, get used to it. And I like that. So let's cooperate with them. And people will be hearing from ETLetsTalk about that day as soon as I can get that event together. Matty Roberts, the guy out of Bakersfield that actually came out with this page, he said he called all the hotels and inns there in the area. They're all booked solid, as far as I know. Now, the Golden Age officially doesn't start till 2025. If you go read the Alice Bailey works, you can figure it out from there. And now it's funny because I've already predicted that March 2023 is going to be a huge, huge party, like no tomorrow. But it looks like it's already starting. It's already getting started. And so the whole year of 2023, when Pluto goes into Aquarius, is going to be a huge, huge party all year long, especially March 2023. It's going to even be bigger than this party in September 20th. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this unfolds. And pretty interesting. We're told that this is a process. It's not like the Golden Age. Someone flips a switch and everything will be perfect overnight. At least in 3D that we're in, it doesn't work like that. It might work instantly like that at higher levels of existence, and I'm sure that it does. But where we are here in bodies, time is a thing, and so this is a process. And we've had other huge waves, like the 60s were a big wave in this country. Woodstock, that affected a lot of things. It had ripples out over the decades. This next thing will be a wave, and it may be followed, like you were saying, Andrew, by other events over the years. They're not going to confine themselves to one thing. One wave can build upon another. The next wave can be bigger than the last one. And we were told by our guides back in 2003 that someday a sea change would happen, and that there would be multiple waves that come in, and they would sweep away everything before them that was not serving the higher good, and they were unstoppable, and they would be complete. So I think we're part of that. We're seeing these events as part of waves of consciousness that are elevating and lifting us and taking us to better places. So it's literally going with the flow. Just grab your surfboard, get on one of those waves, and keep riding, because there's another bigger one behind it, and it's going to sweep away things that don't serve us anymore. And there's a lot of constructs that do not serve us anymore, aren't there?
Well, we've been going through 150 years of this happening. It takes 150 years for our solar system to go from one sign to the next, from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. And literally, that whole process is going to, transitional process is going to be ending in 2025 from my calculations. The middle of that, all that whole process was World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, Korean War. All those wars were the middle of that whole transitional process from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. And it's going to be complete 100% in 2025 by my calculations.
Okay, it can't come soon enough for me.
All right.
I know. Well, part of it's already there. I mean, imagine being in the future, looking back at these days, and we're going, "Wow, remember the last part we were unconscious and in the dark." Look where we are now. So we can future pace and get there. And if you can wrap your head around it, you can make it happen. So I'm over on the Storm Area 51, and there's like about 5 or 6 groups, so I'm just joining them all. I'm not going to go. But I really support this effort. I just wondered if all these people show up there, they're not able to house and feed them. So, that's a concern when a large population descends on an area.
There's like one road. Now, I've not been out there physically, but I'm told there's just one road that leads out to Area 51. If you get even thousands of vehicles all trying to go in the same direction, there's going to be a huge jam. I mean, physically, I'm having trouble understanding how the infrastructure in that area could possibly support more than, hundreds of people, never mind thousands or
millions,
thousands,
right?
Or millions.
Well, I guess you'd have to look at Burning Man. How does Burning Man do it? Those people out there.
Exactly.
They plan. And so think about if you're out there listening and you're going to this event because we evoked it. Make sure you have plenty of water, and I don't know how you do this. I wouldn't go. I think it's too dangerous. Because the police are saying we don't know how we'll handle all these people, even if a small portion comes. It's like we don't have any way of handling this. So I just don't want anybody getting there and the military comes out and does weird stuff. And I guess if you're just gathering, they're not going to kill you. But I'm concerned. It just seems.
No, I am
understand
too,
the spirit of it, but I'm concerned. Yeah.
I think we can do a lot more in consciousness than anybody climbing over a fence, because they're worried about their perimeter. And, they've literally drawn lines in the sand out there with the perimeter that they've established and the cameras that monitor and all the sentries and whatnot. And I just think it's foolish to try to get through that. It's not the point. If all these people are coming together, then let's use consciousness in our hearts. The power we have, the power of love, of that many people focused on anything, on, like I said, communicating with our star families, for example, and asking for help. That kind of power is more powerful than any military or any force on Earth, because it's what glues the universe together, and you just don't get any bigger than that. So I'd rather see people use their unity, their love, the way that was done in Woodstock, to create something in consciousness that becomes a wave that will change things from the inner dimensions, and those changes will then filter out to the physical world. So we got to start with the inner world, and like I said, this is our opportunity, even those of us who are not there physically, to work from the inner to the outer, to come with the inner unity of love, and let that power become nuclear bomb BALM. I would say new clear balm. Yeah, there you go.
Nuclear.
I just made a pun.
Balm, BLOM. I like that. Hey, we're running out of time. We've got a few minutes left. But tell us where you want us to know, you and Hollis, and then I'm going to play the exit music, and that'll be a show. We did a great show. So go ahead and wrap it up, you guys.
I want to urge people to come to ETLetsTalk.com. Yeah, the membership is free. You just sign up, and then you have access to the whole community to support you, to maybe meet people. I publish free webinars. I also do webinars where we as experiencers come together and tell our stories, and those all go up on our YouTube channel so that we can meet that way, though we may not ever meet physically. We hold retreats, and the next one will be in Joshua Tree down in the Southern California desert for 6 days and nights. It's very affordable. I urge people to come from October 20th to 25th and join us under the stars. At night we'll do sky watches. It's a beautiful area to explore. We always have contact at night. Never mind that there's 3 military bases nearby. That doesn't seem to keep our star friends away. We always have contact on the ground and in the sky with them. And in the afternoons during these retreats, and by the way, I'll let Hollis talk about this, but let me just give the URL. You can come to ETLetsTalk.com/retreats, and all the information is there, and the registration is there for Joshua Tree from October 20 to 25. And Hollis teaches during the afternoons, and I'll let her talk about that.
Yes, during the afternoons we do psychic development exercises and some exercises to make contact easier, better, more efficient exercises to bring us together as a group, which helps with the contact, all kinds of different things. But
so basically, that's it. I ask people to come join the People's Disclosure Movement by being a member at ETLetsTalk.com. We've already achieved disclosure. My star friends have said early this year of 2019, all our teams, our numbers are so big now that no government or other institution of authority can ever cover up moving forward any of the ET UFO presence, because people don't believe them anymore. We're all talking to each other and believing each other, and we're having our own experiences. So what I want to announce to people is the People's Disclosure has succeeded. Disclosure has happened. In the People's Disclosure Movement, I've been saying for years that we shouldn't be relying on waiting for disclosure from some government. How's that working for you? It hasn't been. No matter if they're dribbling it or lying or manipulating, can't be trusted. They've covered up for too long, and that's why we the people have done it ourselves. So disclosure has happened, and it's happened because we came together. And so it's continuing, and that's why I urge people to come to ETLetsTalk.com, free members, and become part of this is the greatest party that's happening on Earth, because this is the greatest cosmic humanity thing going on that I can imagine. It's going to catapult us into the new age. It's going to bring us into contact with all these different societies, civilizations. It's going to remake our planet and our world and affect our daily lives to the nth degree. So that's why I'm so excited about it, and that's where our community is going forward. We're the story of humanity, what we're doing. We're the first wave of many, many changes, and everybody's invited who has a love in their heart and wants a better world.
Thank you so much. And Andrew, say aloha, and then I'm going to play the exit music.
Aloha.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming to
Aloha.
Thank you.
On Aquarian Radio, and thank you,
Mahalo.
Kosta and Hollis. Mahalo.
Mahalo. We are
woman, child, and man. The leaders of our nation, are they wise as well as strong, or boys in imitation, pointing that he's God, threatening the future, endangering us all? The people